All right, so it's 12:03. We gave everybody a few minutes to get in. We'll go ahead and get started today. Uh, Thank you for being here again on our Discord channel here to discuss things Datametrex. So I am the CEO, Marshall Gunter. I'm here first Tuesday of every month, as best we can, to answer questions coming in. Okay, so for our agenda today, I want to go over a couple things before we dive into DM, just procedural pieces for everybody online. Um, and so so we can have a smooth talk and not waste anybody's time. Number one, this is for talking about DM. It's not for, just in general advice. So the questions that come in a lot about general investment advice, we'll do our best to put links into the into Discord and various other areas to help people, but we're not here to discuss investment strategy. We're here to discuss DM and what we're doing at Datametrex. Okay, so first topic, reverse split. I just want to be clear. There's no reverse split. I hope that's clear enough. It doesn't exist. We're not doing a reverse split, so please don't ask again. All right? It's not happening. Companies do this in general. I mean, there could be some other things, but generally to raise money. We have no need to raise money. We're not doing a reverse split. We have $20 million plus in the bank. We're good. Okay? There won't be reverse splits talked about at AGMs. We're not talking about it ever again, like as of right now. So if there's any question about that, please refer somebody back to this recording, or we'll post it, whatever. There's no reverse split. Any and all questions regarding that reverse split coming in, whether it's here, webinars, emails, anything else, are just going to be ignored. Okay? I'm done answering this question. So it won't be there. It's not there. There is no reverse split. I hope that's clear. We're not planning one. We're not going to do one, period. Crystal clear. Okay. Now, next thing, kind of regarding what I was saying just a minute ago. There's a lot of questions on what a normal course issuer bid is. Now, I've got a lot of questions coming in both here and in other places on how it works. I'm going to toss a couple links in the CEO Tuesday piece, but please feel free, if you would like, to go read those on how a normal course issuer bid works. Both of those are good explanations. They're in the text channel CEO_Tuesdays. Please take a look. It's about a 5-minute read for either one. It'll explain what it is, how it works, and any other details you may need to process what we're doing with the normal course issuer bid. So please take a look, read those, and we'll go from there. I can have those pinned also. Somebody could pin those 2 links at the top. That way, if anybody else has any questions or comes in late, they can see those. That would be perfect. And that will explain it. Investopedia is a pretty good spot in general for you guys to jump on that. If you have any other questions about, how the markets work or any of the other things, that's a good place to start. Okay. Okay, next question's coming in. So now we're going to get on to the DM stuff. So questions that I want to take a look at today. Number one, people have asked about Andrew's departure, Korean business model, etc. I'm going to touch on that first. The second thing is Medicall. There's going to be a lot of this call talking about Medicall. There's a lot of questions coming in. And then we'll go on to the general questions. As for the quick company update, what everybody's done, we just released our financials for Q1, where we did another $10 million. Previous to that, we released our financials for last year, where we did $50 million. Please see our website for those, and you can read both financial reports. They will come down there. in a general update, what we're doing right now is we are moving into a couple new verticals. One we're already started in. We're going to give you a pretty big update too, called Medicall. So we're working to expand Medicall and move it out and make it a very profitable venture. We've been at that for a few months. We're continuing work on our bids with the government. So we were in, last week in Ottawa. I'm going to touch on that later. So those are going very well, and those are continuing. And we're also continuing with our previous contracts, in the Korean sector, in the EV sector, et cetera. And I'm going to go on to those in just a little bit and give a little more in-depth there. So that's the 1,000-kilometer view. We're very happy with how those businesses are building, and we're happy that we're transitioning into more AI profit. Okay, so there's the 1,000-kilometer view. I want to get into some of the specific questions, and we'll start with Korean business and Andrew's departure. So people are asking, how if Andrew is stepping down, how this affects DM, and how does it affect the Korean business, et cetera. The short answer is it doesn't. Andrew stepped down for personal reasons. So he is still available to us and is still, working with the company to ensure our success in every way possible. At this time, he does have, some personal responsibilities, and there's a few other things that he needs to take care of in his personal life, and we're very thankful for everything that Andrew's done. That said, he's still there. Like I had a very long conversation with Andrew this morning about a few pieces that I needed his input on. He's still, hanging out. He's still invested in Datametrex and is around to ensure that the company, succeeds. In the meantime, for his chairman duties, Paul Haber, who's been on the board for a very long time, is going to be performing those duties in Andrew's absence while he takes care of all the personal things that Andrew needs to take care of. For the South Korea contracts, those are still continuing. We're still executing on those. There's no disruption there. The team on the ground in Korea that's been running this has been running it now for quite some time. And we've seen no disruptions nor expect any disruptions there. And again, like I said, if we need Andrew's help, Andrew is here with us and he is helping us. So there will be no disruptions, and we haven't seen it. Now, so let's move on to Medicall. So this is the vast majority of what we're going to talk about today. So what's going on with Medicall? Now, I'm going to go into the business model and a few other things here at the beginning, and then we'll go through roadmaps, et cetera. So we've got a lot of questions around what the business model is around Medicall. 1,000-kilometer view of the business model in Medicall is to provide telehealth and also eventually in-person visits to people who need health care. In particular, we're rolling this out into the Vancouver area right now. And if you look at our financials, you can already see that we're taking in revenue on this. And we are currently, as we speak, expanding that footprint. So Medicall's been available for a little bit, to different selected organizations, groups, et cetera, that we have targeted as we're rolling this out. Right now, we're really satisfied with how that's gone. We're satisfied with how the state of the company is evolving, and Medicall is going to be rolling out further in the next few weeks here. So you'll see an expanded footprint. You'll see expanded availability in the Vancouver area. Now, I just want to be clear, we're rolling this out in the Vancouver, British Columbia area right now, with an eye to expanding this geographically in the future. So telehealth, in-person visits, we bring the healthcare to you, and we also can do a better job at providing that healthcare, utilizing a lot of our predictive analytics and a few other pieces from Nexology that are going into this app as we roll it out and expand the business. Now, how it works, so in a nutshell, you can take, if you got Medicall, you can go in there and ask for an appointment and describe to them how, what this appointment entails, like I have a hurt foot, or I have a bad headache that ain't going away in 3 days, or something of this nature, and you will be hooked up with a medical professional, and they will either choose to do telehealth and help you in that fashion, or we can provide an in-doctor visit or an in-home, in-office visit and send the doctor to you. Now, that's generally how it works for the 3-sentence operation. So how is that working on the ground? So people are asking, a lot of individual questions around, specific things like coverage and things like that. I'm going to touch on those briefly. We will have more information available very shortly within like I said, within, days to weeks, about how exactly these pieces are put into place, and you'll be able to play with that app. So, you make the call, you come in, we dispatch a physician, or the physician provides telehealth services on there, and then, the payment is done either through the app or additionally through the healthcare systems of the different provinces, if applicable at the time. So that applicability is the same applicability that is applied to any other private health service in the province. So that's province to province. If your province covers the services, then we can accept that. Now, so the next questions around Medi-Call are coming in are around profitability and how that works. So Medi-Call is an extraordinarily low overhead endeavor for us at this time. It's one of the reasons we got started exploring this vertical to begin with. The reason the overhead's so low is because we're already in the healthcare business. We've been doing this for several years now. We have the doctors and nurses and everybody else on staff, in-house, ready to go. And we already have the technical talent in-house, and it's ready to go. So all the pieces were there. All the infrastructure was already there. We built all that out, when we were building out the COVID businesses over the past couple of years. And that same support network and everything can be used inside Medi-Call. So the overhead is very small, right? We're not having to go out and hire tons of people, staff an entire new business, all this other stuff. All we're having to do is, utilize resources in a different fashion. And as Medi-Call expands, if it is necessary to, expand the staff and all that, we will. At this time, like I said, there's really no significant overhead in rolling this out. Now, how does the payments and stuff work? That's another piece. People are asking very specific issues, like how many people we have to have for profitability, what's the team sizes we have to have for profitability, et cetera. Well, how it works internally with the doctors and stuff going out is it's payment on a per visit basis. So, as the basis comes in, then that is going, these pay each individual visit pays for itself. And so that's where it's there. Again, just as I said, a lot of this comes in with, I guess somebody didn't hear this. There's very little overhead on this. I just want to go back to that. So, very little overhead, very little, because all the infrastructure and everything with Medi-Call was built out while we were, building the COVID businesses. All that was necessary to turn the profits that we did and are continuing to do with those businesses. Therefore, we're taking those resources and applying them here also. And just a couple questions before we go any further. People asked about insurance companies and things like that. Yeah, they're all game. So, if we can pay it on the insurance, that's fine. So as long as we can, but that's province to province again. So the payment methods available in your province are going to be due to that provincial healthcare, what they cover, so specifically what the province covers, what the individual insurance companies cover, and then what you can cover on your own. and that will be province to province. So those are coming out, starting Vancouver, British Columbia area, because that is where the largest demand is, and we will be rolling that out across the country. So in the next, so ongoing with how this is working, the next piece, people are asking, who's the target audience for Medi-Call? So the target audience for Medi-Call is companies. We're already talking, that's already happening. Companies and individuals will be doing both, right? We've got both. So, as an individual, you will be able to download Medi-Call and sign up, and as I previously stated, what's covered by the province and under healthcare, et cetera, that's going to be province to province. And then, but as a corporation, you can also sign up. And, we have been working with these corporations for several years now, who have needs for this. And this is, like I said, where the ideas came from. So we are working with them. So it's not just individuals. We can work with corporations also. And so, yeah, we will, we are looking at both. So the next question, how does it work on a customer service rate? Like, how do I pay? So I think I explained that pretty well. One thing that one other thing that I should add on to that, just so everybody's clear, you can sign up as an individual, right? Or, we can do the group subscriptions, like for various corporations that we work with now. So both of those are on the table. And, it's still the same thing. If your province, if healthcare is covered provincially and we're allowed to do that, then that's where the charges go. And if there's insurance coverage, again, if we're legally allowed to, if the insurance covers it, fine. But all this works at a corporate level also. Okay. And, those corporate, people asked about corporate rates and stuff. Those are graduated. So, it's very different to enter into a contract with a group of 10 people versus somebody that's servicing, tens of thousands. So those contracts are negotiated on a company by company basis. And it's the exact same thing that we did with the COVID care. So with the corporate contracts, there are usually some pieces that have to, the individual quirks that each company has, that have to go into contracts by law. So people are asking about this, and try to give a brief explainer of why those contracts are negotiated individually. For instance, certain corporations in, let's just say the film industry, they have to have a very specific waiver signed, or they have had to have a very specific waiver signed due to contractual negotiations and obligations that they have with, say, the Screen Actors Guild and, say, the different unions. Okay. So there's very specific language that has to go into those, that has to go into a contract, et cetera. Where their people are, what jurisdictions we're allowed to work in, et cetera. All that has to be done in a contract. So for large corporations, the contracts are negotiated individually. All right. And that's not going to change. Medi-Call will operate in that fashion, just like the Datametrex COVID business is operated in that fashion. So if there's a big company wanting to talk, how it works, we definitely will talk to them individually, see what their needs are, and get it done. Okay. So another question, how does the coverage work? So I've explained that earlier with regards to payment. The same thing applies when you travel, as that's been asked. If you can get coverage through various means, the provincial coverage, private insurance, et cetera, those are honored. If you can't, or if you want to use the service outside of those, it's a pay service on that piece. So as far as your insurance coverage, whether it's provided by the government or private, covers you outside of normal jurisdictions and stuff, that's fine. And then I think the last piece on this is people are asking, how does the intellectual property that we have boost our competitiveness in these areas? So the predictive analytics are inside Nexology that have been used for years now, and we continue to build on, provide us with a definitive advantage in this field. So we can use the predictive analytics to streamline our business. That's one easy, low-hanging fruit in there. And the other pieces that we can use these particular pieces is in the health coverage. And we've been exploring that right now. Like it's, this is part of the premise of the company is, we're going to be working those in as this goes along and refining those models and seeing, what we can do with those predictive analytics and how we can make your healthcare as accessible and fast as we make intelligence reports, whether those are to businesses or, to, governments, militaries, et cetera. So how do we get that, let me rephrase. Using Nexology, we can take those reports down from, it takes days and, several days to produce these reports, and you throw Nexus Smart on it and the thing drops down to 15 minutes. These are things that we're looking at and looking to apply inside Medical as this goes on. So we are actively exploring those pieces. Now, so I think that covers the vast majority of Medical and where that's going to be right now. On move on to a couple more of these, just some brief ones. People, TSX uplisting. Are we on track for that? Yes, we are. Paperwork submitted. We submitted another round of paperwork. And the last piece was to submit our financials for the entirety of last year. We just did that, last month with everybody. So that's in, and we're just awaiting on the TSX to tell us, what the next step is. So everything that they've asked for, we've put in, and we're just waiting on them to let us know where to go from here. Okay. A couple other properties. What's going on with Perspective Drone? So I've got several questions around this. So we put out an LOI a while ago for the Perspective Drone. And so we still have an LOI out there. So it's still there. So the letter of intent is still valid. We're still looking at the deal. The deal is, we're clear of any type of regulatory or anything like that. The question becomes right now is, does this deal in this updated state as we have it now make sense? And, do we move forward with it? We're in an active negotiation with that right now. So with Perspective Drone, it's been revisited. It's finally coming through. We're taking a very hard look at that right as we speak. And, as this unfolds and as we're taking another hard look at that, we will be giving more and more information as this comes out. But the key thing is here, we're looking at it hard, and it's something we're still interested in. The LOI still buying, et cetera, which leads me into some more general questions. And one of the questions I wanted to go out to, with the markets drop, and there's a chance at looking at cheap prices for M&A. Is DM still actively looking? Absolutely. So M&A is one of our primary features, as a company that we've been, talking about for years. It's also allowed us to restructure and double down and get where we are today, with the acquisition of Nexology and moving into that. So yes, we are actively looking at M&As. there isn't a list here, and we think that, right now is a great time to start really doubling down on those. All right, a few more general questions. Website links. The website from, people noticed that the Korea link's gone. They're being put back, says the board of directors. That was just a mistake by the web team. So those will be put back, et cetera, et cetera. And next question, general question: what is our relationship with Graph Blockchain? And Graph Blockchain is a company that was spun out of DM years ago. So that's our relationship with them. It's an older company. It was spun out quite some time ago. We currently hold some Graph Blockchain stock. And yeah, that's our relationship with them. They're a they're a public company. We're a public company. We own some of their stock. We spun them out a couple of years ago. That's it. Now, it's in our best interest that Graph Blockchain succeed. So we are actively, rooting for them to succeed. And, if they need help, we'll help them at any time. But that's how it works, right? That's it. That's all. Next question. So what happened in Ottawa last week? Okay, so last week there were several different conventions in Ottawa. There's a CanSec, which goes off every year. So if people want to look that up, they can. Again, just like the normal course issuer bids. If you want to look up CanSec, please feel free. There was also Ideas Marketplace, which we were there also. Ideas Marketplace is a place to show it for the people that are working in these programs to show off their different solutions and things like that. So, while I'm not allowed to talk to the actual specifics of what goes down inside those areas, both, being in Ottawa last week was an extraordinarily good event for us, and it was very successful. We did a lot of the networking we wanted to do. We met the people we wanted to meet. Had a lot of interest in the products, both in the booths and on the stages. This is part of continuing to build the relationships and the contracts and stuff that we have with the Canadian government over the last few years. And, we're going to continue to follow up on those. And if you're allowed to come to these things, by all means, stop by. We'll be glad to show off the booths and everything else. So let me. All right. So I think we're 30 something minutes in. Let me grab a few more of these, make sure we can get most of this stuff here. Another question. This is another general one. People are asking about M&As. How do they get paid for? How do they do this? We might pin this too if it comes up again, but each M&A is an individual negotiation. Okay. So, whether or not we pay for it in cash and shares or a combination of the two, it depends on the negotiation. Okay. We do go in there with every intention of generating the best value we can for Datametrex, and that is the goal of management in any M&A negotiation. Now, that being said, there is another party involved in every negotiation, and that party has wants and needs also. So I can't sit here at any given time and say that all M&As will be paid for in one fashion or all M&As will be negotiated in one fashion. That's not true. So they are negotiated individually. In general, it probably ends up being a combination of cash shares and other, whatever amenities are involved. But that's just very broad strokes generalization. Now, can DM take, the models we're using with Metacall and apply them to other verticals? Absolutely. And if you remember, we're still looking into, there's two other verticals that we applied this to, and are looking at now both with Shinhan Financial. We're looking at, in the financial markets with those verticals and in the electric vehicle market. Now, the EV has proven extraordinarily successful, and we're looking at that really, really, really hard right now. The specific question referenced legal. The answer with legal is we've done a little bit of preliminary work in there, and we do think that there might be something there. We are not committed to a legal vertical at this time, but it is something we are interested in. And any type of text, stuff that's rich with text and that type of data, we can definitely look into. And now, how do the D&D contracts work? And I think this is going to be the last one. So the D&D contracts are graduated. So they come out as we roll up on milestones. So each milestone is worth X amount of dollars, and as they roll out, those different milestones come in. So that's how it works with the D&D contracts. They're never going to be any other way. So they lay them out in terms of milestones over a couple of years. In general, and this is another very large brush, so in general, those milestones are graduated, right? So they increase in size and scope. And that's what you see reflected in our contracts. So as they come out and as we pass milestones, that's how it works. Milestones are reported on. The government reports on what they need to report on the milestones. We report on what we need to report on the milestones, and we move on to the next milestone. Okay, so I think we've covered just about everything. And we will be back here definitely next month. And just make sure we've got anything else on here we need to cover quickly. Okay, so expect us to be back out there in the next couple of weeks with some interesting news. Like I said, Medical's rolling out. That's rolling out very quickly and is going to be coming out there. There's some other stuff we're taking a look at the M&A market, like we said. So as those things become material and as they come up, we will be telling investors about those. And so, okay, so let me go. Okay, there's a couple more questions coming in. So let's just hold on a minute. We only do this once a month. So let's see if people want to bring in some questions here. We can bring a few more in. So let's see here. Okay, so here's a couple more that are coming in right now. Can we provide updates and timeframes on decisions about Ronin? Okay, Ronin's still sitting there. We are actively looking for something to do with what remains of Ronin. There's very little left, to tell you the truth. There's, that was written off there was a lot of write-off about that a long time ago. And with the crypto market being what it is lately, Ronin is there. Now, will we continue to look for somewhere for Ronin to land? Yeah, and we will. We're going to continue to look for that. If Ronin does land, that's a big plus right now, and we'll take it. That said, it's not affecting our performance at all right now. So it's kind of a backseat piece. And so, we're going to leave it like that. Can we provide updates on Datametrex worldwide? Sure. So we touched on the Korean piece earlier. I don't want to go back into that and repeat it. And we talked about the Canadian government contracts. They're ongoing, and those are reported on as they roll out and when we're allowed to report on them. And I just touched on that. There's the last pieces, Europe and the U.S. So we're still active in Europe, and we're still have a presence in Europe, and we're still working through NATO in Europe with Datametrex Germany. We have been in contact with a couple large corporations there. And one of them in particular is interested in some of the things we're doing around the few new verticals. And they are actively, we're actively talking to them about, if they would like to be involved, et cetera. In particular, as we're rolling out Nexa Intelligence and those particular pieces into the medical verticals and the EV verticals. But there's nothing material to report on that just yet. So we're actively looking at those companies. We're actively looking to see if somebody wants to be involved with those. And if there's something material that does come out of that, we will say so. So we are still actively looking in Europe. We're still walking down there. Other questions that are coming in about NATO. How does DM work with NATO? Okay. We work with NATO through the Canadian government, through the United States government, et cetera. That's how, we work. That's how we were brought into the mix and how we are continuing to work with them. We are part of a working group inside NATO that discusses disinformation. This has been going on for several years now, and works with different groups inside NATO to how do I say this best? To defend democracies against disinformation and the implications of it, therefore. That's going to be the best description of what I can tell you about how that working group works inside NATO. For specifics of it, I'm not allowed to talk about specifics, but it is, how do we get after disinformation? What's its impact? What can we do about it? These types of pieces. Now, some of that work with NATO is on our website, so you can see a couple papers that they have they've deemed that we can publish. So you'll see some in there about COVID disinformation we've done and election disinformation. Those are there. This is indicative of the type of work we do with NATO. That's a portion of it. That's the most publicly visible portions of it. Again, NATO also uses Nexus Smart, which is our media analysis engine and mixology. And they use the predictive analytics in this. They use the artificial intelligence, the business intelligence aspects of it. And a lot of that has been built in conjunction with them and their input over the past, 7-8 years, what it's been. So I hope that explains adequately, how we're hooked into NATO, and how it works. Now, as far as the bidding and stuff concerned, we're not allowed to talk about that in these channels. So people asked how NATO bidding works. NATO bidding works in conjunction with the bidding with the different constituent countries. What does that mean? It means NATO's got to respect all the laws of the different countries that they're in. So if NATO as a group needs something, they have to work within whatever the laws of those bidding processes are. Now that means in Canada that everything there heads for RFP, which is request for proposal. And then you put in your proposed solutions, your bids, how much it's going to cost, what's the wiggle room, et cetera. Those bids are judged. Now, how they're judged depends on where they come from. So there's no uniform judging method. If it's done by one division, they judge it one way. Another division judges it another. There's different forms. So that's generally how that works. But so in general, it's a bidding process. It respects the laws of the countries the bids are going into. And that's how it works. So most, if not all of these are competitive bids. So you are in competition with other people. Now, where do we fit into this? Okay. So we now can bid on multiple levels of these contracts. The first level, pretty much anybody can bid. We were there a couple of years ago. So you're talking smaller contracts, million bucks, $2 million, something like that here and there. Once you've proven that, you can move on to other levels of bidding that they deem you capable of executing. We're currently at a higher level like that, and that's reflected, like, say, in the contracts we're working on now, which are much bigger. So those contracts, can run into the tens to hundreds of millions of dollars. And now generally those contracts, very generally, so hopefully everybody, get this, that there are exceptions to all these rules, every single one of them. But in general, most of those big contracts are serviced by conglomerates of companies. And there is a law in Canada that states if somebody takes a big contract, they have to reserve so much percentage-wise of that contract for small and medium businesses. Okay? That's the law. So you'll see these larger contracts, there'll be a primary, and then there's secondary, tertiary, et cetera, companies on with those. We bid through that system with all kinds of different companies, et cetera. Which, one other question I'm going to answer right now. People asked about a bid with the Lunar Space Station. That's ongoing. That particular bid, right, that's a very long-term bid. Okay, we mentioned that a while ago. That station is going to take decades to put together. So those RFPs are being evaluated. Now, for those of us who've been around, you'll notice the difference between, say, that RFP and, say, the ones we're working on now, plus the ones we're working on previously. Those were very short term. Some of those were very fast. Like, you notice we put a bid in, we announced a bid when we were saying we win the bid 2 or 3 months later. For the lunar stations and bids like that, those are very big and very long. So those RFP and the evaluation periods literally last years. So the evaluation period on something like that is going to be a while. So they're looking at next year sometime for something around those lunar stations. So you're looking at 2023 for those particular bids. Now, where do we fall in all this? Anything that we can, that we feel that we can be a part of or service effectively, we're going to go in and bid on those. And whether that's the long-term bids, like we just discussed, the shorter term bids, or even the midterm bids, which we're in now. Okay. With the longer term bids in general and those bigger ones, we are, a smaller company in a larger bid. So those will be led by, we've mentioned NBA in the past, companies of these sizes, right? Companies that are much bigger than we are. But that being said, the fact that we're allowed to bid on those contracts and allowed to be those second players is a huge boost, I guess, to, the government trusts us. And so we wouldn't be allowed in there if we weren't doing great work for them. So the next thing is are there people are asking about dark money, dark components to finances. None that I know of, not for Datametrex. How that works in the government, I have no idea. Like this is a public company. Accusations of dark money and all that is just they don't exist, guys. It's a publicly traded company. We submit our financials, we submit our reports just like everybody else. We're governed by the same laws as every other public company, every defense contractor, et cetera, private auditors, all the rules from the stock exchanges, all the rules from the government, in multiple countries now, because, we trade on multiple stock exchanges. We're scrutinized by the U.S., Canada, Germany, and we have to report into all those auditors. So no, there's nothing nefarious going on. And, that's it. There's nothing there. I'm sure we've all heard the stories, government contracts with, you can watch it on whatever conspiracy theory YouTube is there. But that has nothing to do with Datametrex. Nothing, not at all. So let's just 86 that. And some people are asking about Agoracom. Yeah, we're going to be back on Agoracom very, very, very soon. Like we're looking at hopefully the next few days. So don't hold me to that. I've still got to wait on their scheduling too, but hopefully in the next couple of days. If not, it's going to be in the next week or so. So we will be back on AgoraCom, and we enjoy AgoraCom. So AgoraCom is something that we like to do. Now, just to be clear, a couple questions have come in. Want to know about exact specifics of profit margins and stuff. Even one that wanted to know about 1,000% profit margin. I don't have 1,000% profit margins. Period. Second, how people are asking about shifts in healthcare and how that works and why their profit margins are the way they are in different healthcare areas. So let me explain something about how the profit margins and how COVID worked, just so everybody knows. At the very beginning of the pandemic, right when it started, like the first few months, 6 months, I would guess to say, but even the day, we got the letter from the ambassador's office wanting to know what we could do with supplies in South Korea. Those supplies were in very, very short order. Like you're talking COVID tests were costing $20 to $30 American per test. That's from the manufacturer. Like that's not at your corner. Like that's US $30 for a swab and some testing material. Those costs have come down significantly over the course of COVID. The reason those costs decrease for materials, right? Material cost decreases, manufacturing comes online. So when COVID hit, the world wasn't manufacturing, coronavirus tests in the capacity necessary, obviously, because therefore prices go up. As manufacturing rolls out, a lot more fabs, a lot more places to, building these things, competition, it goes down. So those prices fall down. Now, as those prices fall, actually profits have generally went up in general as material prices fell. That said, material prices come down, profits go up. Then they tend to stabilize around, the points they are now. And, COVID testing, profitability, things stabilized over the course of a couple of years. But that instability, and as the world all of a sudden needed 3 or 4 products, and that was it. The whole world needed them. So at the beginning, prices, volatility, just supply chains, everything, all over the map, everywhere. As that stabilized, that's where you're seeing a stabilization in the numbers and in the finances, right? So when people are seeing profit margins jump on different things all over the place, well, that's a lot of it, and it's not just, materials. That's just an example, but that was also the case with, say, labor. All right. The countries, we didn't have enough medical staff worldwide to deal with this. So there was a massive rush, for medical labor, in particular nursing staff. And so, private industry in a lot of cases was able to put forth more money than, say, public infrastructure. And so you saw a lot of fluctuation running around, things like that with the nursing staff. Again, that stabilizes over time. And as we speak right now, pretty darn stable, right? Those prices are pretty fixed, pretty good. You're not going to see as much fluctuation in those margins, ratios, et cetera. So I hope that adequately explains when you're seeing, people are seeing different jumps. Why is one thing cost this and, this quarter and it cost this another quarter? That's why, right? So those margins, that would be it. So we got that. So the materiality of warrants and stuff getting exercised coming in, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. So people are actually asking, what's material? Yeah, if a bunch of warrants and stuff come in, that's going to be material. So if people, if people are still talking about those, then yeah, that's it. So we will be announcing those. So yeah, they have to come in. Okay. Real quick, this one just came across that I'm seeing. Well, okay, so people, there's a lot of things people asking about the most exciting thing. I'll end on that in just a second. So I want to take a few more before the time runs out. See if we can get some more questions, but I'll save a few minutes at the end for that one. So hang tight, or for that particular for that particular piece. And so what are we? Da, da, da. Okay, so one of the questions that comes in, this is a good one because this is something that I wanted. That's a really, really cool, cool use case. Is people want to know, can I do something online and show them how this stuff works? Yeah, I probably can. Now, what I'm going to do is we'll take a look at that and see if we can do something, maybe with George over at Agoracom or on YouTube or something like that to show everybody how these pieces fit together and how they work. That would be outstanding. We just have to run that through security, make sure that we're not going to show off anything we're not supposed to. And then, yeah, we could definitely do that. We can absolutely, definitely do that. Okay. Mangelo just asked, I saw come across my screen on DM, can DM increase AI revenues month over month? In these new verticals, absolutely. And that's one of the attractive pieces about it is these guys are able to be expanded as far as we can cover healthcare. And, with these other verticals that we're exploring, they have, global reach much more quickly than, say, a healthcare vertical. So now the healthcare vertical does have nationwide reach almost immediately. Global reach, that's a different discussion, is, you have different healthcare laws, et cetera. So Medicall is a Canadian play right now. When we're looking at, say, financial, and we're looking at, say, the EV markets and stuff like that, those absolutely have the potential to increase revenue month over month. And that's why, these are the types of things we're looking into. So, we have a strong foundation right now, and this is going to lead into what I was saying. What's exciting right now. So I'm going to run into all that. So yeah, absolutely. We can run those in. So what's exciting and what we can do is, I want to hit on that right now because this leads right into it. Like, this is why we're excited. A couple of years ago, we set out to write the company, to write the ship, to get it turned around, to get it moving. I'd say we're in a position that phase one of that fairly well accomplished, right? I'm sure there's things we could have done better and things we could have done worse. Absolutely. But now we're in a position, to build that stable base. We have good contracts, we have good clientele, we're working, DRDC, Canadian Armed Forces, Samsung, Latte, all these guys that are, coming in, all the, we've brought on the different production houses, et cetera, cleaned up the books and put cash in our pockets, like in DM's pockets. It's right here. So we have sound financial basis. We have, the sound contractual basis. And now it's time for, phase two of those plans. Like we said, we're going to pour everything back in into our core business, which is, applying those artificial intelligence algorithms and seeing what we can do in different verticals with it and how we can expand on those different verticals and then building on what we have now. So that's what's exciting. We have all the potential in the bloody world right now. And we've got the finances to do it. We've got the staff to do it. We've got the market to do it. And it's a matter of getting out there and just executing at this stage. So that's what's super exciting. We're in the position to do that. We're executing on it right now, and we're bringing that to bear. So with the Medi-Call rollout, with these other verticals we're looking into, with the larger contracts we're coming in with the government, the ongoing contracts that we're still servicing and expanding upon, that's how we build this company. And that's what we're going to do going forward. So that's what I'm super excited about there. Now, and everything is moving in the right direction. The uplistings are happening, etc. So we're going to keep moving on that front. We're going to keep going, and excuse me, sorry. Give me 1 second. We'll get a drink of water. Sorry about that. Mouth's really dry after talking for so long. So yeah, that's what we're doing, and that's what's super exciting right now. There's all this stuff we worked for over the past couple of years, getting to stabilize the company, to get rid of all the overhead, to make sure we're running a super lean, super efficient, super adaptable organization. That's all in place. We've got it all in place, and now it's time to move on. Phase 2, execute, fire, and succeed. That's where we are, and that's what I'm super excited about. So yeah, quarterly results. I just sent an update earlier asking for a few changes to the website. I'll make sure those get up there. That's not an issue. Okay. Let me just check. We still got a couple more minutes. And I think I got them. Okay, guys. We will be back in touch. We'll be here first Tuesday every month. And in the meantime, keep your eyes peeled. We will be sitting here. Press releases are going to be coming out. There's a lot of news about Medi-Call coming shortly. We got some really good stuff. Some good things internally going on, both with financial things and the electric vehicles and the government contracts. So stay tuned. We're here, and we'll keep it moving forward. Thanks, everybody.